Your Los Angeles Rams won an instant classic against the Chicago Bears and are now just one win away from getting back to the Super Bowl. That's coming up next on Locked On Rams.
You are Locked On Rams, your daily Los Angeles Rams podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Ramily, and welcome to another episode of Locked On Rams, your daily podcast covering your NFC Championship game appearance making Los Angeles Rams. Free and available wherever your podcast, Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network. Now the number one sports podcast network, your team every day. You can also find us over on YouTube. Lots of new viewers, lots of new listeners here for this run. So be sure to hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. If you want to support every episode, drop a like, drop a comment. What was your reaction to last night's win? And also, podcast listeners, write us a review. We'll read it on the show. My name is Doug McCain. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMAC_LA. I've covered LA sports for over a decade, 24/7 sports, Bleach Report, SI, Dodgers Nation, the LA Sports Report. And as always, I'm joined by the Rams pre, half, and post-game show host for the Rams flagship radio station, ESPN 710 LA. He's in his 11th season covering your Los Angeles Rams, the People's Champ, Mr. Travis Rogers. And on today's episode, it is a special Victory Monday. We're breaking down the Rams overtime thriller, and we're going to talk about who has the edge in the NFC Championship game in the trilogy between the Rams and the Seahawks. That and so much more. But first, today's episode of Locked On Rams brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel is officially in playoff mode. Every game during the NFL playoffs, FanDuel is giving customers even more ways to get in on the action. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. All right, Travis, still buzzing about last night's win. Look, it hasn't been pretty. It hasn't always been great last couple of weeks, but the bottom line, survive and advance. There was a lot of people after the game in the squad show, myself, Michael Brockers, and Gavin Carlson, that were screaming, "Oh, fire Sean McVay, even in a win." They were that emotional. My response to that is there's no such thing as an underwhelming win in the NFL playoffs, especially on the road in sub-20-degree weather, especially when you win in OT.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you, Doug, that there's nothing to apologize for. There's nothing to but about. It is a win on the road to send you to a game that gives you a chance to go to your third Super Bowl under Sean McVay in 9 years. That's about as good as it gets. It was nerve-wracking. It was frustrating. It was terrifying at different points, queasy, nauseating, all of those things. But they won the game. They get to play again. They get to play a team that I think if anybody matches up well with the Seahawks, I think it might be the Rams. So it was a great win. Not the greatest performance we've ever seen from Matthew Stafford, but you know what? Who cares? I thought he said it really well. Last year he lit it up in the snow in Philadelphia and they lost. This year he didn't light it up at all and they won. This is a lot better than that.
Exactly. And you start with Matthew Stafford, who did not have his best game. He did not look like that MVP for the most part, but still he gets his 55th career game-winning drive in the fourth quarter overtime. He has 11 more than the next closest quarterback since the start of the 2009 season. And he started the game. He was really sharp. He completed 6 of his first 10 passes, but after that goes 14 for his next 32. His pass range is 8 points better than Caleb Williams, and Caleb Williams had 3 interceptions on the night. But even though it wasn't the best game for Matthew Stafford, and whether the finger was bothering him after he got hit in a play against the Carolina Panthers, who was noticeably swollen, whether it was the weather that was impacting his throws, he still came up big when it matters most. He hit some big throws to Devontae Adams, one on that drive to put him up 17-10, that 14-play drive that took 6:22 off the clock and gave the Rams a 17-10 lead, a little over 8 to play in the fourth quarter. And then overtime, he hits Puka Nacua, he hits Devontae Adams with that incredible grab. The question mark I have is it's 2nd and 6 and 3rd and 6, and you're going go ball to Colby Parkinson, go ball to Terrence Ferguson instead of kind of getting closer for Harrison Mevis. But still, I feel more confident about this team, even in a game where Matthew Stafford did not play his best. Sean McVay didn't have his best play calling because of the fact that they proved that they can win even when he doesn't have his best game, even when it's not the Puka show. You can lean on the defense, and I could not be more excited to talk to you about the thicker kicker, Harrison Mevis. Travis, it looks like we might have finally have our kicker.
Hey, he made the kick that he had to make, and it was a high-pressure kick in a difficult environment, and he made it, and it looked pretty solid in the process. I think this is the first time really all season long you can kind of exhale as far as the kicking game goes, because it was well done. Now, it wasn't, a 58-yard or anything like that, but who cares? It went through, they won the game, and it was a pressure kick that he had to make, and he made it. So I'm with you on that. I think that box is at least partially checked, maybe checked in pencil as opposed to pen, but at least it's checked for the time being. I want to go back to what you're talking about with Matthew Stafford. I think that there's a couple of things going on here. Number one, I think it's pretty funny to think it wasn't that long ago when we were having the conversation about whether or not Matthew Stafford could win a playoff game. Remember when he came from Detroit to Los Angeles, and it was, yeah, but he's never won a playoff game. And then he shows up and he wins the Super Bowl like that in his very first season with the Rams. Fast forward to last night, Matthew Stafford was having a night that I think he would himself describe as not very good. There were some moments, there were some throws for sure, but he was not looking like, you mentioned, the MVP candidate. All of that being said, when he got the ball at the end of the game, in overtime in particular, and the second time, the first drive in overtime didn't amount to much, and they obviously took the ball back when Cam Crow made that incredible interception. But when he got that ball back, I think every Rams fan was thinking, yeah, okay, we're going to go win the game right now. I think every guy on the Rams team thought, okay, we're going to go win the game right now. That doesn't happen very often. There's only a very small handful of teams that I think feel that way about their quarterback. Maybe it's Josh Allen, maybe it's, Patrick Mahomes is certainly on that list. There's some other guys, maybe one or two more, but Matthew Stafford, when he has the ball in his hands with a chance to go win the game, will, or at least you feel like he will, and gives your chance a team to go and do what they did last night. And that is a very special feeling. And I can't wait to see what happens on Sunday in Seattle, because, I've said it so many times. And last night, I think this is true. The game comes down to the coach and to the quarterback, and the Rams are going to have an advantage at the quarterback position virtually. And with what's left in the field, they've got the best guy, and it's not even close. As far as the coach goes, I think they got the best guy in the field, and I don't think it's that close. I think last night was pretty close. I think, what's coming up next, though, is not going to be that close. So they're in an incredible spot. It was an incredible game. What, like you said, not pretty, frustrating, and I'm sure we'll talk about what happened to Cole Kmet when he caught that ball in the end zone, but it was just it was an incredible win. And, Matthew Stafford wasn't great, but he was certainly good enough.
And I do think that Sean McVay didn't do Matthew Stafford any favors early on that football game. And had the Rams lost that game, I was going to be the first to say that was the worst coach Sean McVay game in this era. Thankfully, we don't have to talk about that. And, hey, he's going to learn from this as well. But what really made me scratch my head throughout the game is what's been the evolution for Sean McVay and the Rams offense. What has been the theme this year? 12 personnel, 13 personnel, more tight ends on the field, committing to the run game. And through three quarters, they were in 11 personnel almost 90% of the game. So in a game where maybe Matthew Stafford might be dealing with a little something, in a game where maybe Devontae Adams isn't 100% back, in a game where you've got snow in the elements and the weather, maybe if you go to that 13 personnel, you establish the run. And on top of that, you set him up to make some shorter intermediate passes just to move those chains. And that's what kind of blew my mind is it was just they were throwing the ball. It was that they were low percentage throws throughout the night. So, hey, thankfully they figured it out, but it really made you want to bang I almost threw my house into the street with some of these, by the way, I'm moving. It's not even a house. It's like a townhouse, but I almost threw this into the street. I don't own it either. So it'll probably been very bad for me, but yeah, the point is I was really frustrated, Travis.
I understand. We've talked about this, and our everydayers here at Locked On Rams know this about you, and they know this about me. You and I are as devoted Sean McVay fans as you're going to find. We know what we have. We know that there's literally 31 other I guess less than that right now. There's some open jobs, but there's no coach that I would trade Sean McVay for. There just isn't. That being said, there are times when you're like, what's going on? the Rams at one point early in the fourth quarter had passed the ball 30 times and run the ball 10. In those 10 runs, they had averaged more than 5 yards per rush. They were moving the ball on the ground, and yet Sean McVay throws the ball and throws the ball and throws the ball. And like you said, these were like you were playing, in September inside at SoFi Stadium as opposed to outside in 10-degree weather in the snow. It's 11, like you said, as opposed to doing that 13 where they grind guys up. And then all of a sudden, his better angels finally said, all right, let's just run it. I know it stands against everything that I am about when it comes to football, but let's just run it. And all of a sudden, Kyren Williams, then a short pass, and then Kyren Williams, and they ultimately end up scoring what turns out to be the go-ahead touchdown at that particular point. And he'll always get there. It just might take a little bit longer than you and I and a lot of Rams fans would like. But yeah, it was frustrating at times to see them continue to throw the ball when they were having success on the ground, and Matthew Stafford just was not having one of his great days.
Yeah, it makes you wonder, like, with all the film that's on that now, with weeks of going to that 13 personnel, was that something he was just trying to keep in his back pocket to try to zig while maybe he felt like the Bears were onto something? So, hey, well, only he knows that, and only some people in the building would know that. But I think there's a bigger reason why the Rams have a better chance to win the Super Bowl today than they did a couple days ago. We're going to talk about that next on Locked On Rams.
Hey guys, so the draft pick positions are mostly set, and so a lot of teams are looking for their franchise quarterback, right? Have you ever wished to become a pro QB getting drafted first overall by the LA Rams or your favorite team? If you're here, I think it's probably the Rams. Well, now you can, because there's a mobile game just for you called Ultimate QB Football Legend. In this game, you step into the cleats of a number one draft pick, and it's your job to lead your team to greatness to help turn a failing franchise into a dynasty. This is the number one QB career mode game on the mobile app stores, and it introduces the most realistic environment with full career control. You sign contracts, you train and upgrade yourself, you build chemistry and evolve with your teammates, give input to your GM on roster moves, play the actual games in 2D, and rise through the ranks to become a pro football legend. You'll keep up with the ups and downs of a quarterback career, rookie nerves, playoff drama, and every choice that's going to shape your journey. Ultimate QB is totally free to play, has no ads, and works 100% offline, so it's perfect when you want to sneak in a quick game or two on the go. Just head on over to ultimate-qb.com. That's ultimate-qb.com, or search for Ultimate QB in your app store. And they've got a little something special for you as well. When you use the promo code Locked On, that's all caps, Locked On, in the game store, you're going to get a free boost at the start of your career. Ultimate QB, football legend, QB1. It's your legacy.
And we are off and running here on Locked On Rams. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single weekday. Free and available wherever you get your podcast. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Also, a big shout out to those everydayers. We've got new members joining the Everydayer Club. And it doesn't just mean to watch every single episode of Locked On Rams or listen to every single episode of Locked On Rams. There is a real Everydayers Club. It's $5 a month, or it's $50 for the entire year. You get access to an ad-free audio feed for Locked On Rams. It's compatible with Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and every other major podcast app. You got an invite to the members-only Locked On Rams group chat. In the Everydayer Club Discord server, it features chats with national topics, Locked On shows, and I'm chiming in there. You get exclusive access to national bonus shows, a members-only Locked On merch store with exclusive gear, a 60% off discount on additional Everydayer Club member-level subscriptions, too. So if you want to support this show, if you want to take your Rams fandom to the next level, go to lockedonrams.supercast.com. If you join, I think it'll increase the chance of the Rams being the Seahawks. I can't explain how. It just feels like the vibes there. I can't, it just feels like that's how it's going to be. I can't really explain it, but I think it's a fact.
I don't think there's any dispute. I think that it's clear as a bell. So if you sign up for the Everydayers Club, that the Rams have a better chance to do it. Just a quick one, Doug, before I forget. I was doing the post-game show last night, and two things happened that I think you will be interested. Number one, One of the callers to the postgame show called me the people's champ, which I directly attribute to you. So good job there. And another caller wanted me to make sure that you knew he was shouting you out on our radio station. They said, tell D-Mac, what up, love Locked On Rams. So good job by you twice last night on the postgame show.
Yo, well, first of all, the only thing I'm most excited is the People's Champ thing. Now the goal is to get sweet tea on the NFC Championship show. So, okay, so that's really good. But hey, shout out to the fan and lots of love for Locked On Rams. I know too. Yeah. Hey, man, it's a movement, man, taking over, baby. I love to see it. Now, Travis, I think the thing from last night's game too that really, really impressed me the most was this team is never out of it. They can win in gritty ways. They have guts. They can take a punch. But the story in the NFL for the entire weekend would have been Caleb Williams and that throw to Cole Kmet and that moment that he had where he turned into Superman. He was USC Caleb Williams. It was just out of pocket, out of structure, just running back. It was a play that I make on Madden like every single day, so I wasn't too impressed. But I mean, it was a play that really just blew your mind. If the Rams go on to lose that game, that would have been the story. And for the Rams to bounce back in overtime, and how many teams, even win an overtime game on the road where they get the ball first and have to punt, and the Bears are 15 yards away from kicking a field goal to end that game potentially. And DJ Moore kind of breaks off his route. He's kind of dogging it, jogging a little bit. And Caleb Williams in the pocket, where when you keep him in the pocket, he's not an elite quarterback. He's really bottom 5 in every single metric. Doesn't step into that throw, and you have Cam Curl make an interception. It's not hyperbole to say saved the Rams' season.
Oh, yeah. I mean, because, look, Moore kind of broke off the route. Williams threw a bad ball. Both of those things are true, but Curl made it an amazing play on the ball. It wasn't just like it hit him in the chest and he caught it. He had to dive for it. He had to juggle it as he was going to the ground, hold on to it, make sure he secured the ball. It was a high-level defensive play by Cam Curl. And, by the way, the Rams' defense was basically terrific all night, with the exception of that Cole Kmet play. Now, I'm watching it on TV like just about everybody else. Now, I'm listening to JB Long's call on the radio simultaneously, and he in real time, this not revisionist, but in real time as it's happening, he calls the play, and he's like, he said, that's a push. He discarded the defender, that he shoved Durant to create that kind of space. It's the only thing that makes any sense because there's no way he would be that open. I get that he could go and kind of moss him and go over the top and catch a ball like a Hail Mary kind of situation. But he was open by 5 yards. There's no way Durant's going to misjudge the ball that badly in that situation to give up a touchdown like that. So I'm assuming that there was some weirdness going on that didn't get called. Okay, so put that aside. They didn't call it. So you got to go and do what you got to do. I thought the Rams caught a break in what happened next. I was shocked that Ben Johnson didn't go for 2 right there. I was shocked that he didn't try to end the game right there. All the momentum, every last bit of momentum was on Chicago's side. They had shocked the world. They had pulled something out of their ear, a touchdown that goes down as a 14-yard touchdown pass. He threw that ball 50 yards in the air. It was an incredible throw. And the Rams, I know they're tough. I know they're resilient. I know that the whole ethos of professional football is, last play is over. There's nothing we can do. Play the next play. I have a really hard time believing that the Rams are going to be able to get their together to stop a 2-point conversion, I should say. I understand that they stuffed the Bears on 4th and short a bunch of times last night. I get all of that. But if you're telling me I get one chance to win this game against a team that's better than I am, right? I think that that's a fair assessment, and I'm not throwing any shade. I think the Rams are better than the Bears. I got to make one play from the 2-yard line to win the whole thing and go to the NFC Championship game. The other guy just took a kick in the you-know-what to absolutely crater this. I'm doing it. When they lined up to kick, I went, oh, thank God. I was so relieved that they decided to kick that ball because it allowed them to kind of go, okay, we're back in this. I thought Sua Cravens, who I do the postgame show with, made a great point. It's like a fighter that gets staggered and he's ready to go down and the bell rings and he gets to go sit on his stool for a minute and catch his breath and come back and say, okay, and kind of get his legs back underneath him. and go on and end up winning the fight. I felt like the Rams were an inch away from getting pushed off that cliff, and Ben Johnson didn't shove him. And I really think they caught a break right there. I really, really do. And then they took advantage of it. They took advantage of it. They get the ball back in overtime. Didn't go well, and then kind of brings back to where we started with the Cam Curl interception. But I thought they were very fortunate that Chicago decided to kick the game tying point as opposed to try to win the game right there.
Absolutely. There's just so many factors in play here. One, you're Ben Johnson. You're supposed to have this big bag of tricks. Ooh. You've already won over your fan base in a tough town in Chicago. You've already had this year where, let's be honest, if the Bears got blown out yesterday, if they had lost 50-0, I think if you're a Bears fan, you can't be upset about this season. I think if you're a Bears fan, you're still optimistic about the future. So it's not like had he have not gotten that, people would have questioned the decision to go for it. So I think that's always the best time to do it, when the implications and the aftermath isn't going to hurt you as much. And I agree with you. I mean, I agree with you a good amount of times on this show, but I couldn't agree more on this one. The way that NBC was covering it, it was like they cut right to the extra point, right? And I was like, I was getting ready. Like, this is it. This is the season. Like, let's see what's going to happen. How are they going to line up? Are they going to use a timeout to try to see the formation? Yep. And he goes out there and you just see the extra point go through. And I'm like pumping my fist. Like, it's let's go time.
Yeah. I mean, it just, when that ball landed in Komet's arms, I'll be honest. And look, I think anybody that listens to this show probably understands this, or listens to Locked On Dodgers, or listens to me on the radio. I can be a pessimistic sports fan. I really do think the sky is falling a lot of times. And I get it. I wish I weren't like that, but I am. So whatever. I was convinced they were going to lose. When that ball landed in Komet's arm, that's not supposed to happen. That's one of those things where the sports gods have said, you know what? We're just going to give this one to you. And when he caught it, I'm like, well, that's how this season's going to end. A defensive, a play where the defensive back couldn't cover someone for long enough. They couldn't get home in all of this stuff. And instead they line up to kick it. It's like, okay, great. I mean, I guess we'll keep playing. And Matthew Stafford's really, really good. And eventually he was going to have a drive where he looked like Matthew Stafford, and ultimately he did. And we get to talk to the Seahawks fans coming up this week. I can't wait. I just cannot wait. They dodged a bullet, but, sometimes you got to get a little lucky along the way.
And two, about the defense. I mean, you had 3 stops on fourth down, 2 in the red zone. Yeah. And Ben Johnson, had he just kicked those field goals, they would have had a better chance to win too. And I think you cut to Ben Johnson, he's shaking his head. He knew he should have gone for it on fourth down. On going for 2 with a chance to win the football game. And also, hey, if you're Ben Johnson, if DJ Moore didn't pick the worst time ever to jog on a route, you probably still win that football game. But hey, hindsight is fun, right? It's fun.
It is. Yeah, it is. And I like you brought up the fact that, they had a chance to kick 3 really short field goals, and they decided to go for it every single time. And they went over in those situations. That's 9 points. And I'm not a math guy. I'm not, I've made my peace with the fact that the analytics have taken over most sports, and when you go, when you don't go. But there are some things that still make sense to me from a million years ago. Points are always good. Has anybody ever gone on a drive in a football game that ended with your team putting points on the board and thought, well, that sucks? Never. It never happens. And the 2-point conversion used to be used as a last resort. We got to try it. We got, kick the field goals, do these things. And I felt like Johnson did it almost exactly the opposite of what you're supposed to do. 9 extra points in that game, never gets to overtime. The Bears win in regulation. Go for 2 when the game is, if one play can decide the game, then sure, go for it. But these are kicks in the first half that you want those points back. They could have had a 6-point lead at the half. Instead, there was a tie game at 10. It just felt like, and again, this is where coaching is so important. And Ben Johnson's a really good coach. I'm not here to wail away at him, but it just feels like when you get points, when you get a chance to get points, and it's like, well, you're not going to beat the Rams with field goals. You would have. You would have. Had you kicked those field goals, you would have won that game. So points are always good to me. I'm glad they decided to do it the way they did.
And I think who gets the most credit and the game ball given to the defense as a whole, the unit that gets the most credit for Ben Johnson not going for 2 was that Rams defense, because the Bears, they struggled on short yardage all night. They weren't converting on fourth downs, and I guarantee you, they were having success early in the game in those situations that he either goes for it or thinks even stronger about going for it. So give credit to that defense for showing up and showing out like they did all night and making him not go for it. He still had a chance to win overtime, but still, I think that's the biggest reason why. And just kind of on top of that, why do I feel better about this team's chance of winning the Super Bowl today than I did at the end of this weekend? What are the two weaknesses we've talked about for this team? Special teams in the secondary. Those are two of the biggest reasons why they won a playoff game on the road. Kobe Durant's interception at the start of the game when they were driving, they could have scored first. Kobe Durant's interception stopping some momentum with 4 minutes to play in the third quarter. Cam Curl's big interception, getting stops on fourth down. I mean, this was not the best performance because they didn't do the best job in stopping the run, but they definitely didn't break very much, and Cam made the big plays they needed to. So I feel even better about the secondary because I think Kobe Durant's playing better football right now, and I feel better about special teams because Harrison Mevis has a lot of confidence making that kick on the road. The thicker kicker got it done in, what did Mike Kruger say, the thickest of situations? How made you laugh?
No, that was great. It was the only thing that felt like the thing the Rams didn't have an answer to defensively is the thing they've struggled with, all season long. And the thing that I think is probably the most difficult things for defenses across the league and not just the Rams. It's when you have a quarterback like Caleb Williams or even Bryce Young who can move their feet, and when they can extend the play and buy some time and find a receiver. We saw that great run by Williams in the fourth quarter that ultimately led to the game-tying touchdown. That's why the 2-point conversion to me, to kind of bring it back to that, was so scary. Not that play that the Rams kept blowing up on 4th and 1 or 2 or whatever it is. That play wasn't working, but Caleb Williams dropping back and looking around and trying to find something and going on his own, that was a play that was working all night long. And putting the ball in Caleb's hands in that situation would have been pretty terrifying, frankly.
It absolutely would have. But coming up next, we're going to take a quick look at the Seattle Seahawks. Who has the edge in that one? And what was going on with Sean McVay and his time management late in the game? That's coming up next on Locked On Rams.
It's just about here. Of course, we're talking about that big game, and there's no better way to stay locked into every moment than with Prize Picks, the daily fantasy app where it always feels good to be right. And with football season winding down, right, we're coming into the final stretch, now's the perfect time to close it out strong because Prize Picks makes watching the game even more exciting by letting you build simple lineups around player projections, no drafts, no waiting, just football action all the way through the playoffs. And Prize Picks, it's incredibly easy to get started. You just pick 2 or more players and choose more or less on their projections. It makes watching games way more engaging, especially during the playoffs. And of course, that big game coming up in a few Sundays. Great way to keep fantasy football, even after season-long leagues are long finished. And the new social feed makes it fun to follow your friends, share lineups, and get inspiration from other players. So download the Prize Picks app today and use the code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. And we are into the conference championship round, and FanDuel is officially in playoff mode. Every game day during the NFL playoffs, FanDuel is giving customers more ways to get in on the action because right now, every NFL playoff game day, FanDuel users get a profit boost pack waiting for you inside the app, which means each game day, you're going to see a pack loaded with multiple profit boosts that you can apply to the bets that you like the most. You just open that profit boost pack first thing on game day, and you're going to see what you want to apply. The boosts, they let you lean into your game day instincts. So maybe you like momentum, right? We talked about that. Defense, quarterback play, coaching, whatever it is, the boost gives you more juice on the bet you already like instead of forcing you to bet on something new. So you make your picks, then apply your profit boost to go after even bigger payouts while the playoffs are still rolling. So visit FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL, and grab your profit boost pack every NFL playoff game day.
And welcome back to Locked On Rams. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single weekday. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, Travis, the Rams, a 2.5-point underdog according to FanDuel. That is right now. So it's going to be a tight one. Before we kind of touch on that very briefly, Sean McVay, towards the end of the game yesterday, He admitted that he was wrong after the game, but with 2:07 left in regulation, the Bears call a timeout when the Rams were on third down, and McVay comes out there and he runs the football again, and it gets to the 2-minute warning. So instead of going for the first down and effectively ending the game, he gives the Bears a really good opportunity with a good amount of time on the clock when really you get that big stop and you allow them to really set up that magical Caleb Williams moment. So some time mismanagement from Sean McVay almost cost them.
Yeah, it was a odd decision to say the least. I think we saw something that we really don't see from McVay very often, and you really don't see from McVay when it comes to his quarterback. I think he was just protecting at all costs against an interception. I really do think what that is. Now, like he said, he addressed it. I think if he could do it again, he would do it differently. He would let Matthew Stafford make a good decision and keep the ball out of harm's way. But I think in that moment, it was, what is the worst possible outcome? And the worst possible outcome was an interception at that point in the game. And he basically took that off the table and decided to put the ball on the ground. I think what made it even more glaring, if for lack of a better word, was the fact that Ethan Evans then turned around and uncorked a 33-yard punt. That was the part that really made it bizarre to me, because had Evans done what he typically does and hit a bomb down to the other end of the field, I don't think we're talking about it quite as much. But because the Bears got the ball back basically at the 50-yard line, they were almost in position to kind of make any sort of play call that they wanted, as opposed to forcing Williams into a different set of circumstances. So it was a couple of things in a row that were pretty weird. But again, nobody bats 1,000 in these games. There's a million decisions to make, and you're going to miss some of them. And I would imagine when you're standing on the sidelines, they're happening really, really fast, even for somebody as talented and gifted as Sean McVay. But, I don't expect him to make that mistake again. That's one of the best parts about McVay, is that when he does make a mistake, he understands it and he corrects it pretty quickly.
Yeah, it's tough to really fault the guy that owns it that much in the post game.
Yeah.
And he hopefully used it as a learning situation. And like I said, it did cost him in the fact that they did score, but they ended up winning the football game. So we will forget that. Now, another thing that I hope that we forget, Travis, and what we have the potential to forget, is the Rams' collapse loss in Week 16 against the Seahawks, because now they have the opportunity to right that wrong. And we'll never talk about it ever again. If they lose that, we'll say, oh, it should have been at SoFi Stadium or whatever. But the Rams Seahawks, I think it was JB Long that told you, right? He kind of felt in his gut that these teams would have to face off at least one more time. Well, we're getting that matchup.
Yeah, I talked to JB about that yesterday, and I said to him, I said, you said this, I couldn't remember it was after the first meeting or after the second meeting, but he definitely said, this is going to be one of those things. We're going to play these guys again, and here we are. Here are some numbers for you. I'm going to read these off my phone really quickly. This is how close these two games were during the regular season. Obviously, they went 1-1 against each other. The Rams' total points in those two games, 58. The Seahawks, 57. The Rams' total yards in those two games, 830. The Seahawks' total yards in those two games, 829. So they played two games plus overtime, separated by 1 point and 1 yard. That's how close these teams are to each other. I expect it to be close again. I expect it to go down to the last second. I really do think, and I've said this before, I think if the Seahawks and the Rams played 10 times, I think they go 5-5. I really do. And we'll see who wins game 3. But I don't think that either one of these teams is significantly better than the other. I think some have strengths. The others have some strengths. I think both are well coached. I think the Rams have a quarterbacking advantage. I think Seattle has a defensive advantage. It's in Seattle. I think that's where the 2.5 point favorite comes from, because it's on the road. I just think it's going to be an amazing game. I think they're incredibly well suited for each other, and I can't wait to see it.
Me too. And I can't wait to talk to Corbin Smith, who covers the Seahawks for Locked On Network. And I'm sure he's at the facility right now giving us some good nuggets that's going to help us kind of understand more about this matchup. And I love that, dude.
We should see if we can both do it. I know typically that, one or the other of us will do the crossover. I did the first couple crossovers because typically I do the road games, you do the home games. But right. I don't know, man. I think maybe this might have to be both of us.
I think this might have to be you and I fly to Seattle and we do a live show at the Seahawks facility with Corbin Smith. I know he can pull some strings. I know he can push some buttons. So I'm going to talk to Corbin today so we can set something up. But yeah, I mean, we're going to have all week to preview that matchup. I will say that it's funny to see the 49ers get absolutely boat raced. The Seahawks, they scored enough points in their first 13 seconds to win that game. And they scored 6 points against the Seahawks in 9 quarters. So the defense is vicious. We know that. We also know that Matthew Stafford went 457, 3 tutties, no picks. And I think you always kind of like, there's certain games where it's like there's the slump before the game. And like you're going to get bad Matthew Stafford for like for full games or like parts of games for multiple weeks with the light at the end of the tunnel. I said this on the show yesterday. This felt like a hump playoff game. And anytime you have these big playoff runs in any sports, there's always that hump playoff game. I feel like yesterday was the one where, now we see the bowl. We see the ship. We see the Lombardi. You get over that hump, winning in a tough road environment in Chicago. It's let's beat a division winner and go to a stadium that we could play the Super Bowl that we're very familiar with. Like there's just so much on the line. And there's a lot of reasons why I have a lot of confidence in this Rams team going up there and winning and advancing to the Super Bowl.
So just in case anybody thought we weren't going to do this, let me talk about the Dodgers for a second. So the Rams run through the playoffs is so remarkably similar to the Dodger run through the World Series. Let me explain. If we're going to compare bullpens to kicking games, think about what the Dodger bullpen was relative to what it needed to be and how worried we were about it, and that it actually did come together when it had to come together. Think about you had to play in a round that you really didn't want to play in. The Rams had to play in the wild card round against Carolina. The Dodgers had to play in the wild card round against the Cincinnati Reds. And you got out of it and you moved on to the next one. Some weirdness had to happen for you to advance out of that game. Orion Kirkering had to throw a ball to the backstop on the easiest play he's ever going to have for them to advance. The Chicago Bears threw a terrible interception in overtime to allow the Rams to advance. Then you go in and play the best team in the league, the best record in the league, the Milwaukee Brewers, and you beat the doors off of them. The Rams are going to go play the best team in the league with the best record in the league in the Seattle Seahawks with a chance to beat the doors off of them and then advance to the championship round. So there is your Dodger take on Locked On Rams, but the way it lines up is really spooky.
I love it. You can't ignore the parallels. Don't worry, I got in trouble on the squad show when I was trying to say, to beat the champs, you got to knock them out. That's kind of how it feels like with this Rams team. So don't worry, the obligatory Dodgers reference. And hey, who wouldn't want to be like it's the city of champions, right? Okay, city of champions. Okay, unless you're the Clippers, but it is the city of champions or the Chargers, I guess. But yeah,
Corbin, set this up. Get it up there.
No, we're going to the facility. Guarantee it. It's happening. We're making it happening. We'll fire up the jet. Can't wait to do it. But all right, guys, that's gonna do it for this episode of Locked On Rams. My name is Doug McCain. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMac_LA, and you can follow the People's Champ, Mr. Travis Rogers at Travis Rogers. You got the show today?
Oh yeah, short one. We're the national championship game is on ESPN tonight, so we're on short. But we got an hour and a half, and I'm sure it'll be all Rams.
All right, who's your pick for the Natty?
Oh, Indiana by 1,000,000.
Oh, really? Because I got the U, baby. The U is back.
Look, either way, it's good because Michael Irvin will either lose his ever-loving mind on the sidelines or Michael Irvin will lose his ever-loving mind on the sidelines, win or lose. So I'm here for that.
I love it. All right, guys, that's going to do it. Until next time, whose house? It's Locked On Rams house.